The blizzard arrived without mercy, swallowing the mountain road in white silence just as her headlights caught the glint of steel in the snow. The truck fishtailed. Tires screamed. Then the engine died, leaving her alone on Christmas Eve with the wind and the men stepping out of the storm. Rifles raised, certain she would beg. They were wrong. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're rewatching from. I love knowing who's listening. Her name was Mara Ellison, though no one on that road knew it. To them, she was just a driver coat too thin, hands stiff on the wheel, breath fogging the windshield. They couldn't see the careful calm behind her eyes, the way her pulse slowed instead of spiking. The storm hid everything. It hid her past, hid the choices she'd made to leave that life behind. And it hid the truth that she had trained for moments exactly like this, even if she had prayed never to face one again. The men fanned out with lazy confidence, boots crunching, laughter swallowed by the wind. 32 of them spread across the tree line in the road's bend. Certain numbers alone guaranteed victory. Mara felt the cold creep through her gloves, the ache in her fingers. She thought of the small wrapped gift on the passenger seat tread paper, a crooked bow for her sister's boy. She thought of warmth, of a table crowded with plates and laughter she had missed too many times. She thought briefly that she might not make it home. Then she opened the door and stepped into the storm. Snow stung her cheeks like needles. Visibility collapsed to a few ghostly shapes. The first shot cracked, tearing bark from a pine inches from her head. Mara dropped, rolled, felt the familiar click of muscle memory taking over. She moved because stillness meant death. She moved because she had learned long ago that fear could be a tool or a trap, and she chose the tool. She reached the ditch and slid into it, mud and ice soaking her knees. A man shouted, surprised. She smiled grimly. Surprise was a gift. She used it. What followed was not a frenzy, but a pattern breath. Step strike. Mara counted without counting, not numbers, but rhythms. The crunch of boots betrayed positions. The wind carried voices careless and loud. She took one down with a borrowed rifle, then vanished again, the blizzard stitching her footprints closed behind her. Another fell to a blade pressed swift and silent beneath a scarf. She whispered apologies she knew no one would hear. There was a moment early on when she hesitated. A young face emerged from the snow, eyes wide, rifle trembling. He couldn't have been much older than the nephew she was trying to reach. Her hand paused. In that heartbeat, a muzzle flared from her left. She dove. The snow exploded where she had been. The young man screamed and ran. Mara let him go, heart pounding, guilt and relief tangling in her chest. Mercy had a cost. Tonight she would pay it later. Time stretched. Storm thickened. The men grew quieter. Fear crept in where confidence had lived. They whispered now. They clustered. That was their mistake. Mara used the terrain like a language she spoke, fluently draw them toward. The narrow cut where sound bounced wrong. Her sightlines lied. She disabled a vehicle with a frozen wrench and a prayer. She set traps not to maim but to stop, to separate. Each decision weighed on her. Each life ended pressed against the memory of the life she wanted to return to. Was survival enough? Or did justice demand something more? When the last group charged together, moving like a tide through the white, Mara felt her strength waver. Her arms burned. Her breath came ragged. She thought she'd never see her family again. She was wrong. She rose from behind a drift and met them head-on, not with rage, but resolve. Shots rang and vanished into the storm. Men fell and scrambled and fell again. The blizzard howled approval or condemnation, she couldn't tell which. When it ended suddenly like a candle snuffed. Silence rushed in. Mara stood alone, snow plastered to her hair, hands shaking now that it was over. 32 shapes lay scattered, some moving, some still. She knelt, checked pulses where she could, bound wounds with torn fabric. She made the hard calls, the ones no one applauds. She did what she could live with. Dawn found her sitting on the truck's tailgate, the gift still unbroken on the seat. Skew lights cut through the gray. Voices rose, murmurs first. Then disbelief. Then a hush as they took in the scene. Someone wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. Someone else pressed a mug into her hands. Steam curled into the cold. At home that night, her sister's house glowed. The door flew open. The boy barreled into her legs, laughter bright as bells. Mara closed her eyes and held on. The storm faded into memory, leaving only the quiet truth that she was here. Because courage doesn't announce itself, it endures, and it chooses. And like the road that vanished beneath the blizzard, the night passed, leaving behind a path only she would ever fully know. If this story stayed with you, share your thoughts below, and consider subscribing to Whispered Words because some stories are meant to be carried together, especially on the coldest nights.